welcome to the second in our podcast series of neuro nuggets, and obviously welcome back to the amazing Dr. Fiona Warner-Gale.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And today our focus is on how memories are encoded and consolidated in our brain. How do we retrieve them? And really interestingly, how do we forget? Or why do we forget? What's that all about? And is there something about how sleep and stress impacts our memories as well? So I think that's a really interesting topic that I think I want to explore in this one.
It's a huge topic, but absolutely fascinating. It's something that I've been fascinated with for a long time, and I think we just, there's a lot of myths around memory, isn't there? I think people think it's almost like a video recorder, and what you do is you record the thing, and then it gets stored somewhere in one of the filing cabinets in your brain, and when it comes out, it's the same as when it went in.
Yeah.
And we know that's a massive myth, actually. There are lots of gaps in our memory recall and retrieval, but they kind of are I think they're a work in progress, from some of the articles I've been reading and the studies I've been doing is they're a work in progress. So what we do when we're recalling a memory is we draw on things from the past, on our knowledge bank. So, what we're actually piecing it together from, and our current situation. So we're just trying to make sense of things, I think, by drawing on past knowledge. And what happens is that kind of gets shaped and changed as we go along. And sometimes we need to get it really quickly. So in a situation where we might feel we're in danger or under threat, we'll just pull on the ones that have been sort of stamped and encoded with that alert, I think. I don't know what your take of it is. It's just so fascinating.
There were several things that you said in there that absolutely resonate with me. And one of them is that myth that we record them like a picture, that they're snapshots and they never alter. We often think about, I think because, we often think about saving stuff almost in the way that a computer saves a document, don't we? Or a folder or a file. And that's it. And I guess for me, the interesting thing is when two people have experienced a situation, or whatever that is, an activity, an incident, and then they play it back, and within a very short space of time, you've got two immediately distinct and different ways of remembering it. And I think that's really fascinating. You ask three people who saw a car crash, and they'll all say slightly different things and remember it from a slightly different angle. And I think
sorry, Dave, carry on.
No. And I think the second interesting thing is how we and you've touched on this, that they change over time as more and more memories get almost added to it as we and I think a bad way of thinking about this is they almost kind of get rewritten. They do get rewritten.
They get overwritten, don't they? Yeah. It's like when we record something in a different way.
Exactly that. Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if you watch any of those police programs, but I get to watch a lot of them because it's my daughter's thing. And the witnesses, like you say, they come back with variations of what they think they saw, and actually the repeated questioning, so the return to it will add something else as well. So it's kind of well known that eyewitnesses, their memory is not accurate of a scene. They'll remember bits of it, and there are various things that can impact on that: stress, the way that we're questioned about a thing, the time that's lapsed between it. So getting a witness statement almost immediately is probably more effective than getting one, I don't know, weeks, months.
Months down the line.
But also to bear in mind that if you get one immediately and it was it's going to add a stress in there because whatever they saw might have been traumatic. So they'll bring in their own experience.
Yeah.
And the key thing I think with memory is actually you need to have some knowledge already to make sense of it. So the more understanding, knowledge, or experience we have, the different, it'll impact on how our memory is stored and retrieved as well.
And I was going to touch on this, and it's a really interesting point, I think, of that sense of, we're a prediction engine, aren't we? We know our brain is a prediction engine. It's constantly trying to work out what we're doing next based on the knowledge and experiences, our memories that we've laid down in the past. So I know, because as a child, I picked up a hot cup and burnt myself.
Yeah.
Not badly, because you go, oh, that's hot. You put it down, and
you won't do it again.
I'm not going to do that again. And so I know if something's come out the oven, or I know if I've just filled it full of boiling water, that it's going to be really hot. And so we predict what's going to happen. So I guess there is something about, well, Donald Hebb talks about, doesn't it, about that we see the world around us as from ourselves, not as it actually exists. And I think that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? So when we lay something down, when we lay a memory down, we're partly doing that in terms of that mental schema of knowledge that because that's what we think we ought to see. So therefore we add that into the mix.
Absolutely. And, there's those different sorts of memory, isn't there? The procedural, learning to ride a bike, repeat it enough times, you can actually do it without thinking. It becomes almost, separate to recalling memories. It happens. We lay down those pathways really strongly. But then there are those memories where we have to react to a thing, or it's important that we react to a thing. So traumatic memory, I think, you've written some things on trauma and how that affects people. Memories that are stamped with trauma or very strong emotions are retrieved, I think, quicker. And there is a myth that actually if you recall traumatic memories that quickly, they're going to be vividly remembered. Some of them are distorted because actually you're in a stress position. When that memory is made, your brain's saying to you, I have to survive this. So, for example, someone very close to me has quite a significant phobia. When we look in on their world, we would go, why are they actually scared of that? Of no reason. But it has become so big to them, almost like a habit. So it's become sort of embedded and entrenched. It goes to that. That's a massive issue every time, even when it's not happened. So we're predicting and we're pulling on this memory that's distorted. Yeah.
So there's the link, isn't there, of the situation also has a significant emotional attachment to that. And then so the emotional attachment then connects to our physiological state. So it creates a physiological reaction, which then heightens the mental reaction, the psychological reaction. So you get a closed loop that potentially then spirals into this anxiety loop that just becomes all-consuming, doesn't it?
To us it doesn't make sense, but actually to the brain it's going, I'm protecting you. This is what I think you've thought before. I'm going to retrieve that super quick because actually we need to get away from that, even though it's not happened, but we're predicting that it might do. And therefore that cycle, it gets embedded. So you're talking about Hebb's law and, neurons that fire together, wire together. If we've got in that loop of fear and it happens every time, it's very hard to break that memory retrieval cycle. Breaking phobias and habits is so difficult. You have to purposefully explore each of the different parts of it.
Absolutely. And I think the other part of that Hebb's law, the neurons that fire together, wire together, is that process of well, we call it myelination, don't we? Of the memory
Yeah.
gets, or the neural pathway that the memory is then being laid down gets bigger and bigger. So it comes from a path to a road to a mental
Superhighway.
superhighway.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more we think about it, the more we lay neurons down and thicken that mental process, so it becomes easier and easier for us to remember.
Retrieve it.
So
Yeah,
we become more and more entrenched in that
absolutely.
process. And that's the same for, like you say, about riding a bike, driving a car, making a cup of tea. When if you've done that a hundred
Oh, yeah, I've
thousand
definitely got
times.
that on autopilot.
I had to get my cup of
Yeah.
tea in somewhere. So that's so it's no surprise that we lay these. So we understand the concept then of laying memories down.
Yeah.
So let's then talk about, because I'm super fascinated about this. How do we forget? Why do we forget?
Do we actually forget? That's the
Well, I mean,
question.
yeah. I
Do
mean,
we? Or do we
so
misremember? Or do we just does it become something that actually is not of massive importance, so we don't retrieve it?
I guess I'm going then to Hebb's second law, which is that neurons that fail to fire fail to wire. So as we stop using that superhighway, it
True.
eventually breaks down back down to a road, and then from a road to a path, and then from a
Oh,
path to
yeah. It's like
less.
your sat navs took you on an off-road experience, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's that it is not that we forget, so they don't like drip out of our ears and disappear memories. They become less and less significant over time.
Mm.
Um, but it's really interesting though. I have some periods of my life when I was much younger, which is a really long time ago,
Surely
before
not.
dinosaurs roamed the earth, that I can vividly remember. And I don't even need that information. Why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. But they must have been sort of stamped at that time with some emotion or happiness or whatever. So I remember my house in detail from when I was like 10 or 11. I could walk you through every room, tell you what colour the walls were, where the ornaments were, what the sofas were like. Well, I'm like, why do I need that?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that at the time must have had some significance for me. But then I probably can't tell you where I've left my credit cards this week.
Top floor of the top shelf of the fridge. That's where it'll
So
be.
we've got two sort of memories, two things happening there. One is a very distant memory that's been laid down very strongly. And one is one that was in my working memory that probably didn't get encoded. So we're talking about the credit cards. Obviously didn't need them. In fact, I don't need them anymore because I've got them on my phone. But anyway, so it's like it's thinking about, do we need that information? And what gets stored, it goes through that processing system, doesn't it, of encoding, of storage, and then how we then trigger it to come back. So I think the forgetting part of it is we don't actually need to pull on that bit of information. It's drifted further and further back in the ranking of things.
Yeah.
And then when we recall it, what we're doing is because we talked about earlier that actually memories, we use them in the context of the here and now and the information we need.
Mm.
So they will change because we've probably learned a whole heap of other things since then.
And I guess that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That idea of, we have a recollection of what something is like. And I guess it's one of those things of, and it just, with you talking about this house, I can remember a house of my uncle from when I was 8, which, like you
Mm.
say, was a few years ago. And I have a vivid well, not I have a recollection of it. I'd be interested to, if it was possible to see photos of that, of just how accurate that that memory is, because
Yeah,
I
I'd love
suspect,
to know if it was accurate.
yeah, because
Yeah,
that's here's the other thing about our um the striatum and the basal ganglia, which is the habitual stuff. It doesn't have language, does it? So it doesn't understand the concept of fallibility and the fact that we
yeah,
maybe have misremembered it. So we would, and I guess this goes back to the first point about um witnesses, is they'll swear blind that's correct. But actually, if you showed them a video and they go, "Oh, that's not quite right,"
Yes, that's
they're
different.
like,
Yeah.
"Really?" And they'll be almost as surprised as everybody else.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I think in terms of how when we draw on memories, so the prefrontal cortex will try and piece together fragments. So memories don't get stored as this whole thing. Do you remember when, because you're younger than me, but around my age, is when we used to have videos and we actually wrote a book with, oh, it's so and so, this program, I'd recorded it on this video and it's at 1624. Do you
Yeah,
remember those? Yeah. So
I do.
so it's not doing that really. It's not writing not going, okay, I just need to get that one out. Yes, let me look in my book. So it's going, okay, there's a bit of that there and there's a bit of that
Mm,
there. I'm going to piece it together, and then
yeah,
it gets creative and it fills in any of the blanks, sometimes inaccurately.
yeah.
Because what it's doing is going, okay, I'm in a different scenario here. I need to pluck on these things because I've got to make meaning out of this situation. Let's see what I've got. I'll
Yeah.
dig those out. Okay, let's fill the rest in from schemas or any knowledge that I might have. And that's where you see that, well, confabulation, for want of a better word. You're making it up. You're making it up to fill in the gaps. We
To
see
fill
it
in
a
the
lot
gaps.
more in people with brain injury, but we all actually do it
And
as well.
I mean, that is a really super fascinating thing for me. That bit you said there about filling in the gaps. And and I guess at some level that we're not actually aware of filling in the gaps. Oh, wait, it's the fact that there's a gap and your brain's going, well, there can't be a gap there.
It's
So
like a scramble to like, I'll just chuck something in there.
yeah. But it's predicting, oh, well, this looks a bit similar to that. So I'll fit that in because that makes
Yeah,
sense in my schema of how I think the world operates.
yeah. It's funny. Somebody asked me the other day. I was in France with my daughter and husband visiting family, and somebody said to me, did your daughter go horse riding when we were here last time? And I went, oh no, absolutely not. No, she didn't go horse riding. I went to the stables with my
Mm.
sister-in-law and her two children. My sister-in-law sat on the step in the sun just chatting. The two girls went off on the horses, came back. She's never been horse riding, my daughter. She didn't come with me.
Mm.
I got home and I said to my daughter, did you go horse riding in France? Yeah.
Right.
So you can, what have I done there? I've gone, yep, horses. I know the two children of my family were there. I know my sister-in-law was, I know where I was, but I don't know what I've done with my
Miss
daughter.
that, miss that bit. Miss that bit.
Yeah. Why is that? That's so
That's
weird.
an it is,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that's
Yeah.
that. I guess that's the because we were concentrating on something else.
Yeah.
That was, I guess, the thing that felt important to you at the time,
Yeah.
and the other bit because you not
Filled in the gap. No,
not
she wasn't
yeah you'd
there.
not
I don't know. I can't see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting. So
Yeah.
so I guess so. What I'm hearing is the fallibility of our memory,
Yeah.
um, and I suppose the other thing there is about those memory aids of using things like notebooks to write down
Yeah.
our notes, or writing and
This
scribbling
is,
something on the back of your hand, or
yeah.
those memory aids that just
I think
or
that's called
memory.
cheating.
Coaching. Oh yeah, if we're doing
Yeah. Oh
exams.
yeah, let's
But
not do that. Yeah.
they're well,
Yeah,
in psychology we call them memory extenders, don't we? Of
absolutely. And
so
there's a number of tricks, isn't there? If you think about the process of memory, so don't take memory as being that's it. I've done it and I'm filing it. It's an active process.
mm,
So it starts with encoding, and we're far better at it if we can pay attention. Attention is absolutely key. So if you don't focus, you don't encode it.
right, yeah,
Um, you can get distracted and perhaps it won't go in the same way. So I think with anyone who's trying to remember a thing is you need to give it that deep focus. And I know you're really interested in that deep focus.
mm,
Um, we've got to create places, environments where we can do that. So if you're in a learning environment, we need to help our students, our learners, to focus. We know we can't focus for that long. We're actually rubbish at it. So to get the best out of your brain and, hack it to get the best out of it, small chunks, 25 minutes, at most 90 minutes.
Right.
You're far more likely to remember something if you need to remember it.
So I guess that's a good point for any trainers then that are out there of
100%, yeah.
maximum of 90 minutes, because after that, and anybody that's trained for any length of time will know that, 90 minutes and you're starting to lose your audience.
I'm bored of myself by then.
Yeah. They're starting to think about their coffee time.
Yeah. So it's that, you can go up to a course that lasts a day, but we need to break it down into chunks. And I think, one of the worst things we can do is throw a load of slides at people. We need to get them, to relate it to things that are meaningful to them.
Yeah.
So have a discussion with those around them. Think about a time when that would be applied to them. Think about a scenario that would help them with. So we know that is really important. We learn things better if they're emotionally charged, if they're novel or rewarding, or if they're relevant to us. And I think all trainers, anyone really, if you want to get people to remember to do a thing, is engage them in it, make it meaningful for them. I don't know how many programs I've been on where they've bombarded me with slides, and I sat there like, I am really tired now. And I've gone home and I couldn't tell you what I'd learned the next day.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Definitely remember that. That.
So making those links in storage, super important, because what we do is we take new information, we link it to what we already know. So it's that grounding in knowledge, whatever that knowledge is, and that sort of information about the thing you're trying to learn. We'll try and make sense of it. We don't just take it as read.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think you mentioned earlier about sleep, or we were talking earlier about sleep. Tell me about sleep and memory. It's so important.
I think that was I was just about to move into that, so you predicted it. And I think that's really important, isn't it? We know, for anybody that's listening to this, when you've had a bad night's sleep, of just sometimes it's just so hard to think or concentrate or be present or be present for any length of time, and that. And like you said, that there's actually a great piece of work done by is a computer scientist, actually, the Dr. Cal Newport, that wrote the book on deep focus. But his, that all of that work that says, I can focus for 90 minutes or up to 90 minutes, but you can only do that if you're fit and well. And actually, if we're cognitively depleted, we're fatigued,
that recall,
stressed, then that's and that particularly because of course if you're stressed and you're so what we know is that dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline all have an effect on reducing the prefrontal cortex's ability. But I was talking about this the other day, and what I think what's really interesting is it's not necessarily that it has an impact on the prefrontal cortex. What it's doing is it ups it turbo boost, for want of a better phrase, the amygdala. The amygdala and the striatum. And what that then does is that overrides the prefrontal cortex rather than it downplays the prefrontal cortex. So, and when we're in that scenario of being overwhelmed or fatigued, and we've got lots of those neuropeptides floating around our system, then we just can't think clearly. So that
to be honest, we don't. Why do we need to get into that deep stuff when we're so tired? So it won't recall in the same way. When we engage in the prefrontal cortex, it takes energy.
Mm.
Why would we engage that when that's the state that we're in? But because the brain's networked.
Mm.
It doesn't just float about in your head separate to the rest of you. It's networked throughout the whole of your body. So when you're fatigued, why would you spend all your energy like getting deep into stuff? You wouldn't.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But we're societally we have to for work, don't we?
Yeah.
So you're kind of, you know, biologically, that's not necessarily the best thing to do, but because we've
Yeah. That
you've got
I
to do
think
it for work.
there's some research that says like you can do it for a short length of time. And I can't remember I mean, I'll have to have a look, but I can't remember who did this. But I was reading it the other day, and it was saying that they put these poor students through a lot of sleepless nights and got them to recall stuff. And they struggled to recall what they'd learned, but what they found was that their working memory, so the here and now memory, was not impacted in the short term.
Right.
So they could
That's,
figure out like problems and stuff because they already perhaps had that information from way back, but stuff that they'd learned yesterday and had perhaps been encoded and moved on out of the working memory. Yeah, not a chance. Because
yeah.
and one of those things, and we were talking about sleep, is sleep's not just lying down and having a nice snooze. It's absolutely vital for your brain. It's taken me so long to realize this, until I got interested in the brain and how it works a few years back. I just thought, what on earth are we sleeping for? That's so boring. Like, we're
Mm.
wasting quite a lot of our life, but we're not. The brain couldn't function if it doesn't get that sleep. One is that it flushes toxins out during sleep. And, some of those toxins, if we don't flush them, can contribute to things like, Alzheimer's, dementia, etc.
Yeah.
But two is that it's busy sorting through all the stuff that you've been learning and committing it to your longer term memory and consolidating it. So it's actually pretty busy. It's not inactive whilst we're asleep. It's busy doing all that stuff for us. So vital.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely a conversation for a future topic, isn't it?
Sure is, yeah.
About
Yeah,
the default mode network and how we make those eureka moments and how we kind of connect different parts of
yeah,
our brain that we may have not done so before.
yeah. One of
So,
the I've had an interesting experience. I hope my daughter doesn't mind being one of my observational studies, but she's got exams right now. I was taught to learn by rote when I was younger, so parrot fashion. Would revise all day and into the night when I had exams coming up. And she doesn't learn that way. And actually, some of what she does is based on what we know about neuroscience works really well. And I
right.
haven't told this. It's been amazing to watch her. So she uses flashcards and memory joggers. She goes through those and then she has a nap. And
Wow.
her
Oh,
recall is amazing.
really?
And I'm like, what are you going to sleep for? You should be revising,
Yeah.
revising. And she's like, no, this is how I do it. I
So I
write
do.
it, do flashcards. I write it down on a whiteboard. I go to sleep. It
Wow.
works.
Oh, I want to get her in an
Yeah,
MRI scanner now.
I know. How amazing would that be? But I mean, I know I haven't got long today to
Yeah.
get into this, but there are some things that are really important if we want to hack our memory and remember better, and that's things
Yeah.
like remembering that things that are stamped with emotion, whatever emotion that is, are easier to recall. So you might remember when you got married, that was a happy occasion. You might remember something that was challenging, but you probably remember that better than other stuff. So if we can make learning enjoyable, and you go, yeah, I won't forget that day.
Yeah.
Awesome. We actually learn better through being able to move about. So if you can do
Yeah.
activities where you've got everyone moving or standing up, not just sat there.
We can help. Yeah. And
Yeah,
there was some I was at a conference recently on neuroscience and education, and one of the interesting pieces of research that came out of that was that for young people actually learn better outdoors, and they
absolutely.
over 2 years they did a study with a significant number of schools, that in all weathers, not just in summer, but in, colder days as well, of having lessons outside. And interestingly, even though it was outside and some were in a city schools next to busy roads, it was quieter outside than it was in a classroom.
That's true.
It
Yeah,
helped focus across the board. And the other interesting thing was that for those students that struggled more with focus, they had better attention outside than they did indoors. So
yeah.
generally, there's a piece of compelling research there that's saying, yeah, we need to be outside if we want to get the best out of learning.
I think if you're being held captive in a learning environment and you're not moving about, of course it's not going to energize our brain.
Mm.
We're not making sense and meaning out of it. It doesn't context is everything, isn't it? If you're enjoying it, you're outside, you're moving about, you're active. I think it's far better than being in a very sedentary
And
learning
being indoors.
environment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then there are
definitely.
other things like, repetition. So
So yeah, so in terms of just wrapping up, what is there one or two key takeaways we can take from in terms of how we learn and not beating ourselves up about forgetting, I guess.
yeah, I think people sometimes worry about forgetting stuff. It's a natural part of how the brain functions. But there are ways in which we can remember better or
Mm.
learn better, if you like. And that's, I think, laying down good foundations of knowledge. Because, like we were saying earlier, your brain pulls on what you know and makes meaning out of the new stuff.
Mm.
So, good foundations of knowledge, but think using things like spaced repetition,
Yeah,
uh, trying to assign it to your experiences of things that are personal to you. Storytelling is awesome. I think
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Get good sleep,
yeah.
move about.
Mhm. Move
Yeah.
about, definitely.
I'm
I
sure
mean, for
you've
me,
got a few to add.
well, I mean, for me, there's a couple in there that you've touched on, and one is that um, intentionally attentive. So that thing about just trying to focus on one thing is going to give us the
Yeah,
better opportunity to try and remember the thing that
100%.
we want to remember. Because if we're trying to focus on lots of things, we're less likely to remember it effectively. And I think for me, the second one is about um, that, and you've talked about it, of that coming back to a piece of knowledge. And we know that from good learning is if you do a piece of learning, and if you revisit that learning the following day, and again, in a couple of days after that, the more we visit it, the more we start to secure that mental pathway,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it becomes easy to remember.
And I think it's remembering that memory is not a videotape. It's not a recording of what you've seen. It's actually a way that we sort facts and make sense of the world. And
Yeah,
because of that, it's a conversation between ourselves in the past and ourselves in the here and now, and how we piece that together. So it's a sense making thing, really. It's rather than a factual learning by
yeah,
rote type thing. Yeah,
brilliant. What an amazing conversation. Well,
awesome.
look,
Yeah,
thank you very much yet again
thank you.
for such a brilliant conversation. We went really deep into that, and yeah, I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, definitely look forward to the next one. Thank you so much.
Oh,
That
you're
was
welcome.
great.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take
Bye bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.